Okay, welcome back to the I Help Men Dress Better podcast. This is actually my second take of this. I did a take yesterday. Usually I record on Monday, but I ended up recording on Tuesday, and I recorded a 16-minute podcast and got to the end and there was no sound. So figured out how to test it this time, and we are going to be testing every single time going forward. So what I spoke about the first time around is I know 2 podcasts ago, I focused on fit and how clothing fits. And then the next week, I sort of deviated. I was trying out a short bit, and it ended up taking up the entire podcast. And so I have to apologize to you again in advance because I'm not actually going to continue talking about fit today. I'm going to talk about something else that's been a little bit more on my mind and that I think is a little bit more fundamental to more like the psychological side of men's style. It's a little bit less about the actual practical uh, tips and tricks like the fit video was. Even the archetypes, while they have a psychological component, I think there's also a very like applicable component to it. But today I want to talk more on the psychological side. I want to talk a bit about why I think a lot of guys don't either aren't interested in style, don't think they're interested in style, don't really see a value in style, or don't feel like maybe they're allowed to see a value in style, right? And I also want to then go into sort of a counterpoint to that and the other side of it. So there's a lot of messaging in the world, and I think it's kind of hard to deny that this is out there, but we get a lot of messaging from the world as men that we are not allowed to care about our appearance, that there is maybe something feminine about that, but not just feminine, but like feminine in a way that it can't be part of your maleness, right? Um, we'll get the messaging that there's a certain level of value that is put on our appearance, but we're not allowed to try. We're not allowed to look like we try, right? If you are so blessed that you just like come out of the womb looking great and, like you just wake up every morning with great hair and you just go to the store and great clothes just appear in your closet, right? That if you're like that, then that's great. And like everything you wear, it just looks like it just was made for you, but not in a way that you took time to think about it, right? Like you didn't put in any effort. You were born this way, right? Like that's an acceptable way to be like attractive as a man. But if you are like caught putting in any effort, I actually had, I was visiting a friend once um, on his college campus. I spent the weekend with him. And there was this girl there that said if a guy had like more product in their shower or like by their mirror than her, like that was like not okay. And it's like, well, that's deeply subjective. Like, what if you don't really take care of yourself? So then like this guy has like one face wash for his acne. Right? Like, I just have shampoo and body wash, and he has shampoo and body wash and acne scrub, and that's a problem for me. Like, so yeah, that was a real story that happened. Um, yeah, so there's this kind of like idea in the world, and I think we don't always get it so like fed to us as obviously as in my story. I think sometimes it will be the way we hear someone speak about somebody else, the way somebody reacts to finding out about somebody else, right? Someone will wear something new and they will get certain reactions, and we'll see that, and that will sort of either consciously or unconsciously be internalized into us as, it is unacceptable for a man to dress well or care about his appearance because it's feminine, it's vain, It's not important. Any number of things, right? There's all this messaging is out there, and whether or not we can maybe like put it into words, we've all experienced it. We're all familiar with it. I don't think anyone's gonna come in the comments section like, "What are you talking about? Nobody's ever made me feel like less of a man for caring about my appearance." Yeah, okay, sure, good for you. Like, where did you grow up? In like a bunker, a bunker with just only like supportive. I don't know, different society maybe. So, so I think yeah, a lot of guys are walking around with this belief, but then layered on top of that, or maybe under that, is this other experience of, as human beings, just by virtue of being human, we want to be attractive. And whether that's, for relationship purposes or just interpersonally, there there are qualities that are attractive in a partner, but there are also qualities that are attractive in friends. You know, there are things about people that attract us to them in order to, seek friendship, seek relationships. So we all, in that same vein, want to be attractive as well, right? We want people to be attracted to us. And when you kind of put those two things together, right? This human need to feel attractive, and that can include obviously lots of different things like confidence and competence and likability and social skills, and right, there's that's not it's like it's an umbrella category. When you put that with this idea of, not being allowed to try, you get sort of stuck as a man, where you end up with a lot of men who it's more comfortable to stay in this kind of painful place where they don't feel likable, they don't feel attractive, than it is to do anything about it. Because if they do anything about it, then the world is going to kind of give them this negative feedback. And it's like they're already in so much pain, like that they don't want to also alienate people. It's like, I'm already in this place. Why would I do this thing that is going to maybe even just push away the few people that are interested, right? They're going to see me start to dress well, and now they're going to give you some pushback, right? So it's all very understandable. I even had, oh man, gosh, maybe it'll come back to me, but I had this great kind of dichotomy, like this map. It was like, if you, yeah, I don't know. Either it'll come back to me or it won't. It's such a bummer to lose that recording. Not gonna lie, it was, yeah, there was some good stuff on there that I honestly can't even get back because there's no sound, so there's not even any transcript that I can look at. Yeah, but I so back to kind of that idea of, putting in effort and improving yourself. And I think that it's not just in the realm of style, right? There is this sort of expectation, and the world is very into kind of showing this veneer, like everything is expected, right? There's these expectations that are sort of put out, and you either meet them or you don't, and you need to meet them kind of without trying, right? If you look like you're trying, or if you do anything, then there's gonna kind of be negative feedback, right? There's going to be, you know, I think there's in the self-improvement space in general, there's this idea that when you start to improve yourself, right? Maybe you build a business, you work on your style, you work on your fitness, you start eating better. There are going to be people in your life that are going to have a negative reaction to that. It's not necessarily because don't, they were never your real friends or anything like that. There's this insecurity and feeling of being attacked when somebody else is doing better, because there's this metric now that maybe they weren't meeting, and it was kind of not close to home. It was outside their periphery. Maybe you both weren't particularly attractive in high school, and that was something that made sense to you. But then now you start to work on yourself, and now you're starting to become more attractive. And now that thing that was outside of their sphere because it belonged to other people now belongs to their sphere because you're in their sphere. So now there's this pushback, and I think that's where some of that fear comes from of making self-improvement changes. And of course, there's also so many areas you can make those changes in. And so I think a lot of people, let's backtrack. We're going to backtrack to wanting to be attractive. So I had mentioned earlier, right? Like guys get very caught up on this idea that style is kind of, it's vain, it's just appearance, it's very shallow and unimportant. And there are other more important values. And of course, there are other things that can make you attractive. And this is also not trying to promote attractiveness as the be all end all. But I do think that there's a want to be attractive, and then there's also that as a positive outcome for life, right? So a lot of people will rebut, like, there are more important things, right? Like maybe it's being a good person, being good at your job, being a good parent, husband, father, or good parent. There are these other values, right? Intelligence or reliability. There are these other values that are more important. And to focus on your appearance is, that's shallow and vain. And these other things are, deeper and more important and more relevant. And you should really focus on those things and just totally ignore your appearance, right? And my counter to that, my big counter to that is, the people that I want to work with and the people that I work with are those people who are working on those other areas. And it's because those areas are important that it makes their style more important. So it's not that working on yourself is, being a better person. It's not that that's not more attractive, or it's not that that's not more important. It's that it's part of a broader system. If you work on yourself, you owe it to yourself to communicate that to yourself and others through the way you dress. The end result of style is not to be like a Hollywood, model type. That's not the end result. The end result is to be authentic and honest about who you are. It's to be the most you. But to make that accessible and aesthetic, right? It's mixing authenticity with aesthetic. And a lot of people will pull their authenticity back, right? Maybe they do work on themselves, maybe they are really interesting, but they won't go into style because their authenticity, they don't have the skills to make that authentic. Sorry, they don't have the skills to make their authenticity aesthetic. And so it will push other people away and it will make other people nervous, right? So, or that's their mediocrity, right? Like there's something very authentic about the way they dress, but it's not aesthetic. It's not appealing to other people. And style, while it's definitely about you, it's also about your interaction with the world. So if you don't have that, right, you have that authentic piece, which is the internal, which is what do I like? And then there's the aesthetic, which is other people beholding me, right? Me as the experience, me as kind of the object, um, me as the communication, me as the paragraph, right? What am I communicating to other people about who I am? And I just believe that the more you have going for you, the more you work on yourself, the more you do, you owe it to yourself and other people to communicate that. And the more you grow, you owe it to yourself and people to communicate that more beautifully, right? It's almost like so many people, they have this amazing story to tell, but they just give it to a fifth grader. They're like, here, kindergartner, write my life story. I'm going to tell you my life story and you're just going to write it, right? And it comes out in like bad handwriting, terrible spelling, terrible punctuation, and, just like not clear. and they're like, well, this is my authentic expression. It's like, no, the story was your authentic expression. Wouldn't you want to wouldn't you want to tell that story in the most beautiful, clear, descriptive, artistic way? And like that is what I believe style is. I don't believe that style is fashion and vanity and emptiness. It is using these sort of unspoken language to tell your story through what is in your closet and what you put on your body every day. And I know somebody ragged on me in my comments recently that my video quality and setup is not representative of that. So yes, I know there is a little bit of hypocrisy here, but I don't know if it's really hypocritical because back to this, the way that we grow is through failure. And so while the information that I'm giving over in this podcast, I don't think is a failure, there are always going to be elements of what you're doing that are not going to be up to the highest level. But the point is that you go for it, right? The same way that you worked so hard on your business, on your fitness, on your emotional regulation, whatever it is inside of yourself that you spent the time and energy to become proficient in and become better in, the things that you should be expressing through your style, the reason that you're not is because you're lacking the tools and there's that fear of looking like you're trying and that fear of rejection. You just have to do it. And that's why I'm here. Like I'm here to help you do that more efficiently, effectively, clearly, with as little tripping as possible, right? As little trial and error as possible. Obviously, everything is going to include some of that. That's just life. But that is what I have set out to do, is to help you overcome these messages that you've received from society, become comfortable with being intentional and trying and being your authentic self and being able to communicate that in the way that you dress, and not only communicating that to other people, but communicating that to yourself. Because when you look in the mirror, you are telling yourself a story about yourself. And if it is out of alignment with what you have done and what you have accomplished, it will undermine what you've done and what you've accomplished. If the man in the mirror has not done and accomplished what you have accomplished, that it seeps in and it undermines and it, yeah, I don't think I have to tell you. I think we've all felt the effect of our appearance and the stories we can tell ourselves about that. On that note, like, yeah, and sure, just end on a sad note. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. If you could leave a review or a comment on this podcast, I would really appreciate it. Building it up, it's still pretty young. If you'd like to communicate with me more directly, come check out my LinkedIn, Shlomo Homnick, bright pink banner, you can't miss it. Come check out my posts, leave a comment, DM me, like don't hesitate to reach out. If you're wondering where the best place to start is, check out my featured section on my LinkedIn. It's also the link on my top of my bio. There is a archetypes quiz to find your style archetype, get a little bit more clarity on your primary archetype. It's not your whole style, but it's kind of your primary archetype where the sort of man that you're looking to project out into the world. This quiz will give you some clarity on that and also give you the opportunity to book a call with me to discuss the results of that quiz, have a small session. So if you're wondering where to start, go check that out. Leave a comment on my posts, come interact with me, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Have a great one and take care.